My wife and I have been married for 15 years and we've been together for 20. We have 2 children, aged 12 and 14, whom we love deeply and strive to give the best life possible. However, the past 3 years have been tough. Our kids are at an age where they need a lot of attention and resources for school, extracurricular activities and more. This has taken a toll on our marriage, both physically and emotionally. For the last 3 years our intimacy has dwindled, and our sex life has nearly vanished. We've been trying to work on this aspect of our relationship, but this past year has been particularly challenging. We barely spoke, and our relationship felt more like that of roommates co-parenting our kids. The atmosphere in our home became depressing and demoralizing, and we even contemplated divorce. We decided to seek help through both individual and couples therapy, which helped us start to communicate better. Slowly, we began to have deeper conversations about our marriage and what we wanted it to be. But things took a tough turn when my wife confessed that she was no longer in love with me. She said she saw me only as a best friend and loved me in a purely platonic way. This revelation was devastating. I felt angry and depressed, unable to comprehend that the person I loved no longer desired me. As time passed, things deteriorated again, and we were back to square one. One afternoon, I sat down with her for a heart-to-heart conversation, trying to understand the root of the problem. She admitted that she had built up resentment towards me, but didn't know where it stemmed from. This left me puzzled and frustrated, unsure of how to address the issue. Currently, we've reached a point where my wife says she has no sex drive and no desire for intimacy. She only wants companionship, which essentially means continuing our co-parenting roommate dynamic. When I asked her what made me so unattractive or undesirable, her response was always, "I don't know." She stated that she loved me, but not in the same way. She felt disconnected for years, and said our marriage required too much work. Her focus was solely on the children, and she found my contributions as a co-parent meaningful. Feeling lost and frustrated, I started to vent. It's tough to realize that the person you love has no feelings for you. I felt like my role was reduced to financial and parental contributions. To her, companionship seemed to mean having a reliable father for our kids and financial support. She mentioned that she could only be intimate if she was intoxicated, which I found incredibly wrong and refused to accept. This refusal upset her, making her even more distant. We've always been honest and transparent with each other, never cheating or hiding anything. I asked if there was someone else, and she denied it. I believed her. We even checked each other's phones and emails to confirm there was no foul play or infidelity. Am I wrong for declining to be intimate only when she's intoxicated? I stood firm on my stance, believing that forcing herself to be intimate through drinking or smoking was not right. This left me anxious and desperate. We're both young, healthy, and good-looking individuals with successful careers and are good parents. How did we end up here? In therapy, the term resentment came up frequently. My wife couldn't pinpoint why she felt this way. Our therapist encouraged her to consider her feelings outside of being a mother. She admitted that she was frustrated by missing out on friendships and experiences due to our early parenthood. She felt isolated and focused solely on the kids. I asked if she resented me for getting her pregnant young, and she admitted it to some extent. This acknowledgement was progress, and we agreed to work on nurturing friendships and making time for ourselves. However, she still didn't desire intimacy or sex. I told her I couldn't accept a platonic marriage and needed a partner actively involved in our relationship. After a session, I decided to implement the 180 approach, focusing on myself and creating distance. I stopped helping with her personal issues and maintained a transactional cold demeanor. This shocked and upset her, but I stayed firm. She began to realize there was more to our relationship than just co-parenting. I proposed splitting our financial responsibilities 50/50, which made her lose her temper. This reaction showed me how much she took me for granted. Despite the sadness of the situation, the 180 approach sparked changes. She started seeking more time with me and making time for herself outside of motherhood, which was a positive sign. Our marriage remains uncertain, but we're continuing therapy. I made it clear that I love her and want our marriage to work, but I won't stay in a sexless, intimacy-less relationship. Therapy has been crucial, and I recommend it to all couples. Regardless of the outcome, I will be at peace knowing I did everything I could. Looking back, there was a time when we explored swinging as a way to address some of our marital issues. It was a mutual decision, and surprisingly, it seemed to strengthen our marriage at the time. We were very open about it in therapy, ensuring we weren't overlooking any potential issues. My wife confirmed that our swinging experience didn't affect her view of our relationship. It was always about sex, never emotional or polyamorous. I believed her because we've always been straightforward with each other, even about the hard topics. Swinging taught us a lot about open communication and transparency, which we implemented in all areas of our lives, including parenting. When we decided to stop swinging, it felt natural and wasn't due to any negative experiences. We even maintained friendships with some of the couples we met during that time. However, the issues we faced in our marriage existed long before we tried swinging. I brought up our swinging past in therapy, and we both agreed it wasn't the root of our current problems. The issues were present before, and swinging was just an exploratory phase. It was her effort to understand more about our problems, and I was ready to accept any outcome. It turns out swinging wasn't the issue. Our recent therapy sessions have been eye-opening. My wife admitted feeling frustrated and isolated due to our early start in life and the responsibilities of raising kids. She lost friends and felt siloed. We agreed to invest more time in building friendships and making time for ourselves. Towards the end of one session, I asked my wife about her plans moving forward. She reiterated her lack of desire for intimacy or sex, but expressed immense love for me. I told her I couldn't accept a platonic marriage and needed a partner who was actively involved in our relationship. Tears were shed, and the session ended on a bleak note. Determined to change the dynamic, I started the 180 approach. I told my wife that things would be different and that I would honor the roommate/co-parent dynamic without reproach. I began focusing on myself, creating distance, and being short and transactional. This upset her, but I remained firm. She started to realize that there was more to our relationship than just co-parenting. She became visibly upset and stressed, and I usually would have reacted with gestures of help or nurturing, but I didn't this time. She cried, telling me she was stressed, and thought something was wrong with me because I seemed indifferent. I told her this was the dynamic she proposed, and that I was focusing on myself, just as she was. After a week of implementing the 180 approach, I noticed many changes on her side. She began seeking more time with me and making more time for herself outside of being a mom. This was huge, as she had neglected herself for years. Seeing her be more herself pleased me, and I hoped our marriage would improve as we worked on ourselves. Our marriage is still uncertain, but we remain cordial and amicable. We're continuing therapy to either rekindle our marriage or amicably part ways. Regardless of the outcome, I will always love my wife, but I will not participate in a sexless, intimacy-less marriage. We both deserve better. Thank you to everyone for your kind words, recommendations, and feedback. This will be my last update on this topic, and I wish you all the best. Relevant comments. Cat's Gambit. So, I'm going to assume that your wife has a lucrative job and you are both going 50/50 on childcare, as you both work and share children. Because otherwise, this approach is just plain financially abusive, and if you're planning on saying, "I won't pay the bills unless you have sex with me," sexually abusive as well. Assuming that is the case and you aren't a total POS, I'm actually interested in how this works out for you. I feel like I'm in an unstated, similar situation. We both work and have blended finances, but we don't go to bed together or eat together, have barely any intimacy, a kiss or two, hugs every couple days, and spend maybe 8 hours a week together, just the three of us, him, me, and the toddler. Even less, just the two of us, maybe 3 hours a week. Otherwise he is on his game, or out playing sports, watching YouTube or whatever else he does. It barely feels like a friend's situation, let alone a marriage. I'm curious how she handles it. As the spouse that presumably was pulling away first, I hope you keep us updated. OP, yes, we both have degrees, good careers, and while I make significantly more money, her salary is very proficient and above average. The 50/50 was not to cripple nor hurt her financially, that is cruel, but mostly to send a message on what a roommate dynamic looks like in the real world. I really dislike how people immediately jump to conclusions about the finances as a way of manipulating her. It's not the case at all. Plenty of money left over after bills. However, 50/50 means she has less, whatever money, and the understanding that roommates share everything equally. Prior to this 180 approach, we did everything together and with our kids. We always saw ourselves as a unit that do things together. Both alone and with the kids too. That's changed now, where I'm choosing to focus on more independent type of pastimes and focus. That is what has sparked her reaction and realization of there's more than just roommates here.